Good morning, everybody. This is the Wednesday, October 4th, 2024 meeting of the Planning Resources and Development Committee. All members of the committee are present. Anyone care to move approval of the minutes?
I'll move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Derek seconds. Any discussion or corrections? Okay, all in favor of the approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Minutes are approved. Public comments. We have one that got sent in, and I understand there's someone here today who would like to speak. Mr. Carlson.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So I have on the screen here a public comment that was received via email from Terry Nichols. It came in on Sunday, October 1st at 7:11 p.m. Dunn County PR&D Committee. Greetings, Chair Quinn and committee members. As I travel in my area, I'm noticing more and more shipping containers. I don't know if there are concerns for the county. I do know that the county is looking at ADUs, accessory dwelling units. In fact, today, as I traveled south on County Highway M near me, I noticed 2 shipping containers in a yard where excavation is occurring currently. Traveling home on State Highway 12 through the village of Elk Mound, I noticed a smaller storage unit near a bar on State Highway 12. These shipping containers are used to transport goods from overseas on freight ships. A quick look on YouTube, you will see across this country that people are converting these containers to housing as they come in different sizes, 20 foot, 40 foot, and other sizes. My question is whether the county is going to address the fine details of what constitutes ADUs, or are they relying on the towns to address this issue? Whether state building codes will address this issue, I'm not sure. I'm sure that the county will research this topic in detail as they list examples of legal ADUs. Some years ago, a town resident purchased a used mobile home to use as a storage unit. It's still there, packed to the hilt and twisted in different shapes along the length, and the windows show it's packed full. Will this become a NIMBY issue? A good welder can put windows, doors, and the list goes on with these containers. I would expect that your final report would address all residents of Dunn County, no matter what occupation. Thank you for your time. Terry Nichols, Town of Colfax.
Thank you, Terry. Is there anyone else? Is there a public comment? Okay. Could you come up to the podium? Just name and address and then your comments, please.
Can you push the right hand button? The one on the right.
There we go.
There you go.
We're on.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Corey Schneider. My address is E9174 639th Avenue in Elk Mound. We currently rent there, but own 80 acres in northern Dunn County. We submitted a public comment by email to your meeting, I think a month ago, and are very interested in the details of an ADU ordinance and curious about logistics of it, size, placement, codes, and just wanted to be a part of this discussion and am available for questions. So thank you for your attention to this, and we look forward to being involved.
Great. Thank you very much. And we will have much discussion on this over the next few months. So please participate. Any other public comments? Yeah, okay. Come up, please. Just come up to the microphone and name and address.
Okay.
Eldora D-Rod, E4971A, 1040th Avenue, Wheeler, Wisconsin. And the A understands my house. We live with my son. And to keep the mailman happy, we have an A. There's no such address in the zip code system. But I have a grandson that is autistic. Now, he does very well. He works at my marketplace 10 hours a week, thrilled with his paycheck, no concept of money and no concept of cooking. But he wants his own home. He's 25. No reason why he can't with a little assistance. So we are wanting to build a little mini home on our property. We have acreage and access it to our home, but maybe over here just a little bit so he's on his own. But under the current system, I understand that that's something we have to work on. But it would sort of simplify things if we could just build him his own little home, just be a bedroom and a living room, but mine. And then our septic system is set up for 3 bedrooms. We would like to tap into our septic system. The 3rd bedroom would become the mini home. The bedroom that's in the home would become storage or closet. We need closet space. So, and then it would have a doorway so that he could access into the house from the mini home. So there's some things to be considered that I'm sure I'm not the only person that is going to be looking at that, even if it's just a place for grandma to come tutsing across the yard. But if we do it that way, financially, it will save us mega amounts of money, because if we put it off some other place, we have to put in a septic system. That's $5,500, $6,000. We have to do a hard line around the property. That's another $2,000. We have to put in a well. I don't know how much a well costs nowadays, but I suppose $3,000, $4,000. And then it gets kind of limited to a young man drawing straight Social Security SSI. And so we need some of this stuff to be kind of considered kind of nice. And he will appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your coming today. And I think you're a good example of the concern that's been raised that we're going to try and respond to. So if you want to sit in on future meetings when it's on the agenda, please do. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, no public hearing today. Register of Deeds, staff reports, Register of Deeds.
Good morning. This monthly report is from August, actually, the meeting that was canceled, I guess, at the end of September. So, and just with the timing, I'm not able to pull our data for this meeting for all of September. So I guess I don't have anything to add unless there's questions.
Yeah, Monica.
I had a question. I'm sure you discussed this in a previous meeting. I can't get my notes up, but can you scroll to the budget? Okay, so this is the line at the top, revenue public charges. I was wondering, what was the explanation again for the discrepancy between what was budgeted in 2023 and what's projected in 2023? There's about a $40,000 difference.
Yeah, so I guess we're just seeing the decline with real estate recordings and sales. So we're not seeing the revenue that we had budgeted for. So I guess through this, we're just projecting less. Although to make up that difference to some degree, I guess, we had a retirement in our office at the end of June, and we haven't replaced that person yet. So I'm hoping that will offset the loss of revenue that we're anticipating for the year.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, Mike.
Oh yeah, Heather, I saw you've been really busy, but what's the software for judge protection? That's interesting that you're doing that.
Yeah, so that is referring to, so there's federal legislation in place already. We call it Daniel's Law. I don't know, maybe I haven't discussed it before, but so it was started because in New Jersey, Esther Salas, she was a federal judge. Her son was murdered by just someone that had located her residence, in this instance, through public records, and her son was killed. He acted as though he was a delivery person, and her son was killed. So this federal legislation was started and passed, and it is to protect federal judges so that they want us to restrict their information or shield their information. So they can come to us and ask us basically if they own property in our county to have us shield any of the public records that are available in our office. I think that we haven't obviously had any requests, but there was a recent request in another county in the state. And there is, besides the federal legislation, there really isn't any specific guidance for the counties, so it's kind of wide open. But that's why our software vendor helped create the Citadel, which then is it just a tracking system to help us if a federal judge does come to us and says, I own property and I'd like to have my information shielded from the public record. This will allow us to do that, and we do have that ability to shield records. Hopefully, ideally, there would be state legislation that would be passed to give us more guidance because it's pretty wide open. It's not really just our office. It actually can affect all of our offices. Any records that are available that identify a federal judge, their records should be shielded, and all of our records are public records. So it could be GIS, it could be tax information, could be anything, a zoning permit. So we're all affected by this federal legislation.
Oh,
So,
well, thank you. And the other one I had was, it said pre-1907 scanning in. So you're taking the really old documents now.
yeah, so
Wow.
those pre-1907 records were there. It wasn't a law until 1907 that you had to file a vital record. So anything before that was just hit or miss, and they were considered registrations, and they would register a marriage or a death. And so those records may just be located within Dunn County. It could be duplicated at the state, but yeah, we don't have any backup to those records. So we were able to do a scanning project so that we can digitize those records and make sure they're preserved perpetually.
You do that yourselves?
We did not. We had a company come in and do that project for us, along with military discharges too. So.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Seth. Mr. Carlson, survey.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. I don't have anything to add unless there's any specific questions. My report is pretty small each month, so I tried to jazz it up a little bit. If that could be done. This was an idea, I guess, that someone recommended to me. So I thought, why don't we start breaking out where these new parcels are being created each month? So you can kind of see maybe trends or something, or how much acreage is being consumed. So hopefully you like that format. If so, I'll continue that. I can certainly answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions, Mr. Carlson?
I like it.
It does seem like Otter Creek is getting a steady flow of housing. Stuff going on. You know? Okay, let's see, who's next? Is that Ann?
It's me. So I don't have a lot to add to this report today. I did include some information about ADUs, which we will discuss as an agenda item later. I can answer any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions for Ann?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So, Ann, those shipping containers that Terry was talking about, it's just up the road from me, and now there's 4 of them. So we're under town of Colfax is under county zoning. If he uses those storage for his own use, it's okay. But if he rents them out, then that's against the zoning, because it's not zone commercial.
Well, this is the first time I've heard of any of these shipping containers. Typically, we treat them like a structure. I mean, it would be the same as bringing in one of those prefab garden sheds in my mind. You know, yes, you can move them, but they're not easily movable, and they'd still need to follow setbacks and things like that. So I guess I'm a little concerned if there's gonna be multiple structures on a property. From a zoning perspective, we might want to take a look at that, but I do know people are converting them to homes. Again, if they can meet building code, I think we could consider them a dwelling, but they need a lot of work. They're nice and waterproof and rodent proof. I think that's why people use them for storage. Yeah.
But if it was rented out, that'd be a violation, right? Cause that'd be more of a commercial district and not just a general residential.
I mean, if they're using them as dwellings, I mean, right now they're already a violation because they're unpermitted. If you're gonna use it as a dwelling, that'd also be a violation. If you're going to create a, mobile home type area, I feel like that would be something we'd want to look at too, but I guess I don't want to speak too much because I don't really know the
And I don't-
situation or
I
the
don't know
zoning.
either what the intent was
Yeah,
for those, but I know since Terry said there's there's 4 of them now, so I
Mhm.
just,
yeah.
so. Something to put on the radar.
So just if they were used, if they were rented as a storage unit, that would be a commercial use that would be a problem, right?
Yeah, that would start going into that commercial.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, and I noticed you're working on a portal where people can do more online.
Yeah, so I think I can bring some more details to this as we get closer. We've been working with Land Information, specifically Rachel. Catalyst is the company that's going to be providing this service. But making the permitting process easier, allowing people to access their own property information. They can find sanitary records or permits that have already been issued for the property a little more easily.
So in the future, I could go online and get all that information rather than coming in and saying, hey, how you doing? Want to talk for 10 minutes?
Ideally, you'd be able to get that. I mean, I think it'd be great for like, say, plumbers, when they're trying to, do work, they want to get that information from us. They can just skip us and save themselves some time. But, yeah, it'd be an option to skip us essentially.
That's a good idea. Yeah, good. That's all. I just was curious.
Anyone else? All right, thanks, Ann. And Mr. Cummings.
Well, I guess if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Just a couple things to point out. The number one on the list with some of our chapter 10 manure storage, agriculture performance standard ordinance. We are experiencing some need for elevated enforcement. Nick has been involved in one particular case, which has proven to be beneficial, and we are have taken great strides in compliance with that particular situation. So I think certainly a test of everyone's will and determination and commitment to what the ordinance says. But I think we're going to see some resolution to it here in probably within the next 8 months, hopefully. So the last thing I want to draw your attention to, and maybe there'll be questions on it, is number 8 on the list, which is related to the Land Conservation Committee and some of the statute changed. I'm not sure if everyone had a chance to follow some of the maybe emails that come through our state association of Wisconsin Land and Water, but clearly the Farm Service Agency had I guess a difference of opinion as to the representation that the Farm Service Agency representative would serve on the Land Conservation Committee. The intent of Chapter 92 and that I guess requirement when that law was passed was to ensure that an agricultural producer or agriculture related individual would serve on a Land Conservation Committee to bring that perspective. Therefore, they tied it to the Farm Service Agency because that's typically you're guaranteed a agriculture related individual. The Farm Service Agency decided that they didn't necessarily feel it was appropriate for their committee members to be acting on behalf of the Farm Service Agency in meetings such as a Land Conservation Committee, even though that's not what was being asked of them. Therefore, clearly over the years, I think here at PRND as well as the Dunn County Land Conservation Committee, we've had very little participation from a Farm Service Agency representative. Going forward, and this is something I'll certainly have to work with likely Chris and Nick on, just to make sure we facilitate it properly, but would be filling that position for the Land Conservation Committee with basically an at-large person that would represent agriculture, as the statute indicates. So that would likely occur through the next election cycle when committees are appointed and assigned. So I'll try to answer any other questions you might have on other stuff or that particular item as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
has there been any trends yet on your water testing as far as it pertains to CAFOs?
So I remember you asking that. So we are looking at that. I intend to, at the next committee meeting, Heather will be here, Heather Wood, who ran the whole program. We're gonna try to give a really high level overview of everything. When it comes to specifically looking at CAFO, the correlation between CAFOs, there's a lot of variables to consider in how we might address that or look at that. So we're certainly going to look at it, and then we'll have to figure out how we best present that to the community without any misinterpretation of what the data says. So, yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
on number 3, Chase, I was curious about perpetual CREP easements forever.
Forever. Yeah, so the CREP program, which is a federal and state partnership, there is an option to sign a perpetual easement. And that was set aside that land forever.
Okay.
There has been very little monitoring of those sites since they were signed. Most of them have been signed within the last 15 years. And DATCAP, since they are now every county might be different. For example, Chippewa County, the county holds the easement. In Dunn County, DATCAP or the state holds the easements. So DATCAP is responsible for kind of the check-in, the review of those. They rely on us to kind of be the mediator in between, which is where we always find ourselves stuck in the middle. But there were, we went and visited all sites this year, and that response was received or was expressed by a lot of the individuals as, I didn't know this was forever.
Right, exactly.
There's a lot of maintenance needs to be done. In some cases, there's structures built on these, which they would need to remove. So this has not been a fun process to date, but certainly we're trying to work with the state agency and the local landowner to try to find a resolution to it. But yes, there are 9, I believe, there's 9 in the county that are perpetual easements.
Interesting. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I'm curious about the water quality trading, your involvement in that.
Mhm.
Are you the middleman or?
Of course. So you're familiar with our MDV program I talk about from time to time, the multi-discharger variants. So that is a part of the adaptive management suite of tools that the state provides for point source discharge. So right now we receive money from multiple different point source entities that have wastewater treatment plants that need to reduce their phosphorus discharge to, let's say, the Red Cedar watershed. They have an option to basically pay a variance fee so they can delay their permitting timeline to get their affairs in order to address the phosphorus discharge. So that's one way, one suite of options. The next one would be the water quality trade. And that's where, for example, the village of Elk Mound may need to, based on their permit from the state, need to reduce their phosphorus level by X number of pounds. In order to do that, they'd have to build brick and mortar infrastructure, which is extremely costly. Instead of doing it 100% on their dime, they can apply and try to facilitate a trade with a non-point source phosphorus discharge. So that's where we come in, is trying to help facilitate a connection between the rural landowners and what options they may have to reduce their phosphorus discharge to offset what the village would have to do. So right now the village is and their engineer that they've hired is working with us to connect with landowners, identify practices that might reduce phosphorus, and then come up with a credit exchange of then that can offset what their pounds would be to be required on their next permit. So it's not an easy process. I mean, Typically, it's a 2-to-1 or even 3-to-1 ratio. We have to have 3 pounds of phosphorus reduction in non-point to achieve 1 pound of phosphorus reduction in a point source. And even though our ordinance, our chapter 10 ag performance standard ordinance requires a lot of BMPs that are to be implemented, even those by themselves may not achieve the amount of phosphorus that the village of Elk Mound needs. So there's likely going to be a combination of, or there will be a combination of brick and mortar infrastructure as well as what we can maybe achieve in the watershed. With Elk Mound, it's particularly a challenge because the sub watershed or the Huck 12 watershed that they have to work in for a water quality trade is consumed by Muddy Creek State Natural Area, a lot of public owned land. So there's not a lot of opportunity to achieve any phosphorus reduction in those areas. So then we're limited to the fringes and then the cooperation of landowners that want to participate. So.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Is there, in that situation, is there typically a payment from the emitter to the farmers?
Typically, there's an agreement that would take place between the landowner and the village. There would be an exchange of something, typically monetary. For example, maybe it could be an easement or a set aside similar to a CREP, where there is a payment from the village that would be much cheaper than building infrastructure. And we, I guess, typically are viewed as the broker in those instances. So as this progresses, we do need to consider and will likely require some sort of a cooperative agreement, contract with the village, just making sure we have everyone's roles, responsibilities identified and making sure that we're not being asked to do things that we didn't agree to per se. So, and vice versa.
And then just one other thing, in sort of the area of enforcement, I noticed that in driving north that that hilly field that was a problem, has been a problem, is in cover, it looks like now. Is that part of the result of the enforcement action?
Yes. Yep. And I think certainly I will give that landowner credit in taking a lot of responsibility on themselves to decide what needs to be done. I will say it took our encouragement to move that along, and it's not finished yet. Concentrated flow channels, the water runs that are out there, that's in the next 8 months, basically May of 2024. We're looking to see a final resolution of that, and if that happens, then everybody's going to be okay. So
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Planning division, accessory dwelling units. Kind of a report to us, right?
Yeah, I wanted to keep this on the agenda so we can keep it moving along. And I think having it on the agenda, even if we're not really getting into a deep discussion, is going to encourage people to come in with public comment. And I think that's really important for this process. We're looking at some regulatory considerations for it at the moment. I've been working with Tracy. She's done a lot of research on neighboring counties, specifically Pierce County, where she used to work. So she has some good ideas about what standards are common and what our options are. So we've put that together. So if anyone has any questions about that, Tracy is here and I'm going to put her on the spot. But we are looking at size limitation, keeping the ADUs smaller than the primary residence, establishing setbacks that would be similar to a regular house. So, whatever the setbacks are for a home, these secondary units would have to follow those same setbacks. Having height restrictions so that they're fitting in with the neighborhood. We're looking at how we want to do permitting, if there will be a permitted by right, or if this will always be a conditional use, or if it will vary by zoning district. We're also looking at considering floor area ratios, so that we can kind of keep those subordinate to the primary structure. And then we're also looking at privacy concerns, because that seems to be something that, when you get more houses on a property in a neighborhood, you might get a little bit too close to your neighbors, and maybe we want to look at some screening or things like that. I know last time we met, we were trying to come up with some more downsides for ADUs. Tracy did reach out to Andy Picata over at Pierce County to specifically ask that question, like, hey, now that you have this zoning ordinance, and they've had it for how long? Couple years?
Over 10 years.
10 years?
For sure.
Anything that they've seen, and can I grab this here? So he says, as far as cons go, I'm afraid I can't really think of much. Folks generally seem to appreciate the additional option. So I thought that was pretty promising. And I think too, we haven't really heard any negative public comment, mostly things in the positive direction, which makes me nervous because there's gotta be negative sides. I know there are. We will find them and address them. So yeah, that's my only update today. I should kind of include a little timeline. So we're drafting that ADU ordinance now to present to PRND. So you have something to look at to kind of pick apart, rather than, we could bring it and have you make choices, but I think maybe that's the option we can go in. I'm hoping to get that to you in November, if everything goes well. All right, anybody have any questions or anything?
Yeah, I like hearing that, what's going on. It's good to know. And I don't need a lot of details. I'm curious, I'm sure there must be ones that are out there right now. What happens with them? Let's just say we pass an ADU ordinance and everybody's licensed except the people that were already there. Is that something you've given thought to, or?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, absolutely. So there are some, I guess you could say, either illegal accessory dwelling units or maybe grandfathered in some cases. I think we should have something in our standards that addresses getting those to come into compliance with the new standards. Maybe a self-reporting system of saying, hey, we have this, we want to work to get this right. A lot of times they'll want to get it right. Say they're selling the home, they want to list their ADU on that, property form. Their tax assessor is going to look at it. When they get property assessed for sale, they'll want to address that too. So we might have to look at some options to get people into compliance with the current zoning code. There's some out there that we're working on with compliance right now that we're aware of. They're aware of it. It gets very tricky.
That's good. In general, it's good.
Mr. Chairman, my concern is that, like a lot of these, like ADUs are for family members. But what's going to happen in the future when a different family moves in, they say, hey, like, I don't really want that. And yet you're still sharing probably water and a sewer system if it's out in the country. And you're talking about being so close to your neighbor, you want it close to the main house, but now if it's a complete stranger, I think that's something that we gotta look at too.
I did see some of the counties or cities will have something that addresses owner occupancy. We kind of talked about that a little bit when we talked about the commercial zoning districts before. There could be a standard requiring that one of the structures has the owner of the property living in it. We could look at things like short-term rental regulations. But really, just understanding the concern and knowing that, things might change in the future, and how might that change?
Okay, anything else?
There's a
Okay.
question behind you. I don't know if you want to.
Oh, sure.
address that.
Yeah, some thoughts. You can just do it from the bleachers, yeah.
Okay, our family too is looking to have a younger family and our retiring couple on the property. And it's one of the things that we're chewing on is this issue of, should we have something that's removable, like a park unit that could be there for a period of time? And then if we were no longer wanting to be there, could be removed or sold, and then the property could go back to one dwelling. Or does it have to be a structure that has a, foundation basement and whatever it is there long-term? So that it would give a different option depending on what was allowed.
All good questions. Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting discussion. Thank you. Anyone else? Rudy? All right. Then we're on to number 9. Approval of the wildlife drug damage abatement, damage abatement. You want to take this, Jason? I see Alex is here.
Yeah, sure. If I can introduce it. Yeah, if Alec wants to come up. Alex Andelius is here. He's our cooperative partner with USDA APHIS for the wildlife services program. This has been, I guess, a kind of a brief introduction. This has been a long-standing program, which many of you are aware of. It's been very beneficial because there's 3 agencies involved: Department of Natural Resources in Wisconsin, and then the federal USDA, and then the county. Alec and USDA serves as that kind of middle person for us, where it takes a ton of work off of our plate to administer this program. We would be questioning whether we wanted to do it if it wasn't for having this set up the way it is. So on the agenda today is to look at that cooperative service agreement and the plan for that. And then I believe there's a budget as well, but I'm going to let Alec kind of run with a little bit more detailed explanation, and then there'll be a decision that you need to make.
Certainly. Thank you, Chase. I'm Alec. I work for USDA Wildlife Services. Like Chase said, this wildlife damage program, county administered program, 100% funded by the Department of Natural Resources. There's no expense to the county. I think Wildlife Services has administered it in Dunn County for 20 to 25 years, and I've been doing it for the last 10 years. So this document, I mean, it's lengthy and wordy. Chase and Janelle have reviewed it. We don't need to wade through it with a fine-tooth comb. It essentially spells out the responsibilities of the DNR, the responsibilities of the county, and the responsibilities of myself. There are a few oddball things that could come up that would be you and this committee's responsibility, but primarily the big ones are approving commodity prices, approving properly filed damage claims, denying non-compliant claims. There's going to be a couple claims in the county, and I'll be back at a meeting this winter to go through that. I think things are going smoothly. I think the producers in the county appreciate the program. Like Chase said, I think he appreciates having this taken off his plate. I can answer any questions about this document that you may have. Otherwise, my hope is you'll approve it, and I can continue helping you guys and your constituents in the county for the next 5 years.
Thank you, Alex. Any questions? Diane?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not necessarily germane to the agreement, but I was just struck by what damage do sweet sandhill cranes do? Love them.
Sandhill cranes can damage corn, rye, wheat, potatoes. Right now, until if or when there's a hunting season for sandhill cranes in the state of Wisconsin, they are not eligible for assistance through this program. This program is funded by an excess charge on the sale of hunting licenses. So you can't get sandhill crane assistance with this program, but it's coded and in statute that they would be eligible for this program if the state legislature were to create a sandhill crane hunting season in the state.
Thanks, Alec.
Yep.
Just one comment on that. I got, sandhill cranes on every farm, but I've got like 50, 60 on one farm, and they go right down the road, and even when the corn's up, they'll pluck it right out.
Really?
Yes, the little buggers.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so sweet.
Well, they are, and the sound they make is so prehistoric. It's just really nice, but
Yep.
there's all 2 sides to every story.
I know, Gary. I know.
Okay. Anything else? So we need to approve a motion to approve the program plan of administration for the county.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it.
Give a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Motion carries.
There's the next item with the budget. I don't know if
Right.
Alec wants to run through that. Yeah.
Yep, so we have to approve the budget for the following year each fall, the 2024 budget. This covers all the expenses it takes for abatement, my time, vehicle use, and then this line item on this as well is funds given to processors in the county that choose to participate in the venison donation program. There's a $1,389 increase from 2023 to 2024. That's due to anticipated increase in salaried hours and vehicle use in the county due to increased enrollment. When I come back this winter, I can give you a full enrollee list for 2023, but just looking at it now in 2022, there were 20 enrollees. In 2023 year to date right now, there's 28. So that little bump in the budget is just due to more time spent in the county, more enrollment. I can answer any questions about this. Otherwise, I'd recommend approval by the committee.
Any questions?
I would just have a comment
Yeah.
on how this pertains to the county's budget. So we certainly budget this in our department through our grant program. We usually have an estimate that we work from. And then like Alec mentioned earlier, this is a no cost to the tax dollars or to the general levy for the county. So if this budget is different than what it is, than what is presented here or what we have in our county budget, then we would do a budget adjustment. But for the most part, in my experience, we've been almost right on, if not a little bit below, the actual expenses have been a little bit below than what we budgeted. So usually there's no impact or any extra work we need to do through our budgeting process.
So Chase, is your department compensated for any time from like the DNR if you have to do any kind of work at all or travel or paperwork?
I mean, we could, I mean, there is a line item in here. It looks at county administration and things like that, but I mean, we do very little work. I mean, if I had to go back and look at the hours we spent last year, I mean, if it's 8 hours, Alec does everything else. So we just got to process a few bills, so. Mhm.
Any other questions? Motion to approve the budget,
I'll move approval.
second? Monica seconds.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. for coming by. Well. Short meeting. But fun, good reports. Thanks to staff for that.
Yeah.
And our next meeting is October 18th. So we have canceled a few meetings this year because there hasn't been an agenda item. Is that okay with the committee if we, rather than drag everybody in
Oh,
for?
yeah, certainly.
Okay. All right, then
Particularly.
yeah.
More meetings, more meetings.
Sure, they just
Yeah.
love to have it.
Yeah, yeah, always seems so sad when I say, oh, let's cancel it. Oh, come on, Tom. So we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.